Legends, welcome to another ep of Rucking Good. In this one, I chat with Matt Locke. Matt's the driving force in Australia behind the hugely popular fitness event called HYROX. He shares his fascinating journey from being a police officer in Birmingham to becoming a corporate executive in Singapore to now running events in Australia's thriving fitness scene. He breaks down what makes HYROX so unique and why the community it's building is turning it into an absolute global powerhouse. Hope you enjoy this episode. It's a cracker.
I met up with Veronica from Chief Nutrition and we did, this will look good with the HYROX popping in. Guess who we're talking to today? Yeah, I did it with the chest strap on, and it was kind of cool because you could see what we would see when we were walking, but it was a bit boring. And so I'm like, oh, I'm just going to take it off the chest strap. And so I do, I just kind of hold it, and sometimes I give it to the guests to hold and we just muck around with it. And I don't know, like it's all the stuff that we're recording is for audio mostly, but it's always nice to have the little YouTube clip. So Murray's Beach, hey?
Yep.
I'm here with Matty Locke from HYROX. What's your title?
Country manager for HYROX ANZ.
ANZ, so yeah, right. And you've just, I thought it was the end of the season, but you've got another Melbourne event.
It was for sure originally scheduled to be the end of the season. We just wrapped Perth last weekend, which was amazing. But in between times, we decided that we'd go back to Melbourne.
Nice.
And we'll have the Christmas HYROX. It'll be the last last HYROX event of the year, I should say.
Yeah, right.
Just before Christmas.
And what's the date of that one?
14th and 15th of December.
Oh, cool. And so Melbourne's been your strongest market for HYROX?
Well, it depends how you carve it up, really. I mean, we had about 7,500 athletes over 2 days in Melbourne in June.
Oh, it's the only one that's been a double day event,
so far,
right? Yeah.
Whereas we had 5,700 in a single day in Sydney, which compared to the 1,500 races we had last year at Sydney.
Was that it?
That's what we had last year.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
To be fair, last year, it was the first one in Australia.
No one really knew what it was.
And also it was the same day as the City to Surf, which we had no choice. That was just what it is.
Yeah, especially with, because that'd be your biggest challenge, right, is venue. Like you need a venue that's big enough to be able to do a kilometre running within sort of 3 laps, I suppose.
Yeah, maximum 3 laps.
Yeah.
Ideally less, ideally 2 laps.
Yeah.
Although we don't talk in laps, you know that.
I know. Yeah.
in on the second, in on the third. But you're right. So the venue availability is mind-blowing, frankly. We've now got multi-year contracts going into 28 and 29.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But I guess that restricts you on if the only venue in Sydney that's suitable for purpose is available on the same day as another event. Like normally you would try to avoid it, but I don't think you guys get that luxury.
Sure, we're always trying to avoid it. In the same way that we talk to other event companies in Australia to try and make sure we don't have clashing dates. But yeah, for sure, in the end, we're at the whim of the venues, and in some cities, sure, we don't have any choice.
Yeah.
There's just one venue, like in Perth, for example. There is nowhere else for us to run it than the convention centre, which thankfully the convention centre's awesome. Actually, I didn't realise it's the oldest convention centre in Australia.
Oh, the Perth one?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know that.
Where is it? Is it?
Right next to Elizabeth Quay, right in the city.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, great location.
I don't think I've ever been there.
The only, the other thing I guess we suffer with, like anyone does with the venues, is you sometimes wonder what the architects were thinking when they put it together, and you have an air wall, but it doesn't quite go all the way back. So we ended up with a camel's hump in our run at Perth. There was no way around it.
Yeah, right.
But no one seemed to care.
No.
I
think they were just happy that you were there, because if you speak to any Perth locals, they're always whinging that they don't get any of the good events.
I've got to say, I think I know why. It's expensive to go over there.
Oh man, I used to run Miss Muddy's there, and I used to love going there. We used to go to Ascot Racecourse, but look at this.
Yeah, welcome to
this is a
Bay.
place.
Yeah, we can go down and. So this is Murray's Beach. This is right at the end of where the national park is. You're looking over there is Bowen Island, which, having swum around it, that's 7.5k.
Oh wow!
That's a swim around it.
Was that an organised swim, or is that just a group of people getting together?
It was Me, an idea, and a group of mates.
Yeah, nice.
And we'd have a couple of paddlers and a boat for support.
So does anyone go over? What's the island?
No, you're not allowed on Bowen Island. It's a penguin sanctuary.
Oh, right.
So it's out of bounds.
Look at that.
Yeah, this is classic Jervis Bay, right? And this is home. Not bad.
Is so good.
Although my accent would suggest that it hasn't always been home.
No. So we'll actually, before we dive into, because we can, HYROX being the hottest thing globally at the moment, we'll get back to that. But give us a little bit of a bit of background on you.
Sure. Yeah, born and bred in Birmingham in the UK. And again, if anyone's familiar with Birmingham, they would say, "Oh, you don't sound like you're from Birmingham." So if you think about the Peaky Blinders, that's how. That's pretty much how.
Where you need subtitles when you're watching it.
Yeah, it was kind of cool when I was watching Peaky Blinders. I got past the accent, but it was quite good. You see all the shots on the canal towpath and so on. I'm for sure I'm familiar with all of that, and because that's based out of Birmingham city centre, and out of school, 16 and a half, I joined the police, the West Midlands Police, and spent 6 years in uniform in the city centre, having some fun, I have to say, making some lifelong friends, becoming quite streetwise quite quickly, much to my parents' dismay. Before moving to Canada, I decided to take the opportunity of a career break and buggered off to Canada, and yeah, it's been a whirlwind ever since, really.
So why Canada?
Family, friends.
Oh, you see new people there. Yeah.
Went over there and worked for beer tokens. Ended up liking what I was doing and got into the odd world of fire training simulators, gas-fueled fire simulators, all computer controlled and so on. And I guess my background coming from emergency services, I could relate to that client base.
Yeah.
And had a bunch of fun. So it was mostly North America, but then back to the UK with the same company, and that ended up taking me to Australia. In fact, that's how I got down under.
And do they still operate out of Australia?
They do. It's not a huge market here for that.
Well, it's a very unique clientele, right?
Incredibly so, yeah. So typically fire, military. But that got me, so I ended up working for, ironically, a company based in a little city or town called Lübeck, which is only 40 kilometers away from Hamburg, which is the headquarters of HYROX. So I seem to be drawn to North Germany.
So you bring that company over to Australia, obviously decide that Australia is the place for you.
Yeah, so we had a distributor here, Chubb.
Oh, yeah.
As in the Chubb.
Yeah.
And they were distributing our wares, and I guess they saw the sparkle in my eye. I fell in love with Australia, and they took a shine to me.
Yeah, nice.
So I was very fortunate. They offered me a role and sponsored me to come down under, which made life very easy.
And so how long ago was that?
20 years ago.
Yeah, right.
22 years ago, maybe.
And did you reside down here initially, or did you find this place later?
I discovered Jervis Bay. I was the first here. No, so I first came to Jervis Bay within a year of moving to Sydney, and had become a keen scuba diver. And fell in love with Jervis Bay. I remember saying at the time, I need to find a way to call this home. But 20 years ago, it's not that it's a thriving metropolis now, but back then, it was a pretty sleepy little town.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready to retire, so I ended up buying a dive shop down here, an existing dive business.
Oh, right.
And so
as like a side hustle, or was that your main thing?
No, so my then wife, the idea was that she would run it most of the time, but it became the classic. I was working in corporate 5 days a week and then working in the business Saturday, Sunday, and loved it, I have to say.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. We had a couple of boats and a crew and the retail outlet and the training side, and I really enjoyed it. Learned a whole heap about life and about business.
And so you bought the business down here before you actually lived down here?
Yeah, well, we moved down because of the business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. And then I was commuting up and working in the city, and then we'd come down and work here in the weekend.
What is the commute to Sydney from here?
A couple of hours.
Yeah, right.
Depends how heavy your right foot is.
That's a big day though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Finishing the week and driving in. But when you know what it's like. When you're enthused by what you're doing, when you love what you're doing, you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And that was the case. I really enjoyed it. But certainly it was, I guess it was just at the time, I'll show my age now, just at the time where online sales were coming in. You know, the interweb was having an impact.
Yeah.
And retail sales were quite important to that business. Cash flow was from the business, for the boats.
Yep.
But yeah, bottom line was really made on the retail. And we started losing retail sales to online sales, which I understand. I mean, why wouldn't you? If you can get it 40% cheaper online.
With no customer service. I remember a mate of mine owned a bike shop at the same time when all the online stuff come out.
Yeah, look, there's a shop.
Yeah.
That's
look
classic,
at that. Look at the watercolour.
Yeah, beautiful, isn't it? Woo, 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 woo. Although when it's that clean.
And look at the like how clean that sand is.
Yeah. So one of the things, Jervis Bay, not this beach, but Hyams Beach, it's not far away.
Yes, I've been to Hyams Beach.
It's in the Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah,
the whitest sand in the world. And I'm not sure how they determined that.
No, I think it's a marketing ploy, to be honest with you.
It's not bad.
we went down there, we took the kids there just because that's, we wanted to see the whiter sand. But I was like, I don't know, I've been over to WA. I reckon I've seen some beaches that have got whiter sand than that.
Yeah, and up in Queensland as well.
Yeah.
There's some pretty white beaches up there.
Yeah. Oh man, I was always blown away in WA. Like we turn up to a beach and go, oh, this is the clearest water. And usually the reason that the water's so clear is because the sand's so white underneath it. And then the next day we go to a different beach in a different location and go, oh no, this is the best. Like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every day it was an adventure. But so you did the dive shop thing, moved down to Jervis Bay. Yeah,
but it's the classic boomerang. I then sold that business and got sucked back into corporate, which is where I ended up moving to Singapore. Lived in Singapore for 10 years. And,
wow!
Was basically working for out of Singapore for the German company Draeger, who were in respiratory protection, and so we had really company subsidiaries, let's say, in about 13 of the countries around Asia.
Yeah, right.
APAC, I should say,
and that was again like tied in with emergency services.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So a little bit broader there, but yes, definitely emergency services, military. Oil and gas, mining. And so again, the common theme a little bit was the fire training simulation, but also respiratory protection and custom breathing or emergency solutions. So my part of the business that I looked after was called engineered solutions. So we were selling concepts, and then so we'd sort of big infrastructure projects. We'd sell a concept and then for sure bespoke design and build and install, and then for sure there was a play for the service piece for the company. I really enjoyed it. Great company, really great company, but it's after about 10 or 12 years I was just ready for something else really. And I'm not necessarily built to be in a corporate environment. That doesn't really crank my handle.
Yeah, right. And is that just because it doesn't fire you up that's why you're not?
I think it's, you see so many talented people in corporate that somehow are suppressed by the system.
Yeah.
There's just so much more potential in them and therefore in the business, but it doesn't get realised.
Yeah.
And I just find that frustrating. So, I'd bought some land down here, so I developed that, and that was my exit strategy from corporate. So we've got some property down here, and...
Is that where you built the guest house?
That's one of them, yeah, sure. Yep, absolutely.
And
so that was me for a little while.
Yeah.
Enjoying life and training and...
Yeah, so have you always been... Because I think the first I heard of you, even before HYROX, was Bay Games.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So have you always been like have you always been into that health and fitness and wellness, like you always looked after yourself?
I could show you some great photos of Fat Matt.
Oh really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we can compare photos on that.
So for quite a long time as a youngster I was pretty competitive and fit and used to do tetrathlon.
Yep.
Had a nice upbringing. I was very fortunate. So I had the opportunity to tetrathlon, and then for sure went through in between my Singapore, so I had 2 stints at Singapore that made 10 years, and that was interspersed with a divorce. And I guess it was interesting. I mean, I had married my childhood sweetheart, and so I found myself single as an adult, and I had 2 choices. I started partying with a couple of mates. That wasn't a big drama, but I could see I have a very addictive personality, and I could just see, well, I have a decision to make. Do I go down that path, or do I do something that's going to be healthier and more enjoyable in the end and better for me and all of those things? So I had to go to a little baby triathlon here in Jervis Bay.
Was that run by Emo?
It was, absolutely it was. Yeah, for sure it was. It was one of his, I can't really call them there, try with a Y, triathlon. And it was tiny, it was nothing. Like a 300 metre swim, 8k bike ride and a 2k run.
So a little sprinty.
Yeah, a little tiny thing, just to have a taste of it. And for sure, because of that, the whole bunch of us had a bunch of beers the night before. And I remember melting on the start line, going for it and realising how unfit I was. But I really enjoyed it. And so, classic, signed up for an Ironman because I decided, right, if I'm going to do it, and if I want to not go down the path of drinking, I'd picked up smoking again, and that annoyed me. I thought, well, if I train for something big that scares me, I won't do any of that.
No, you'll get rid of all the bad habits.
So I signed up for Bustleton.
So you're replacing an addiction with another addiction.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. But hey, if one of the addictions is good for you,
that's it.
I'll
and
take
it's a good addiction.
And I really enjoyed it. And again, the addictive personality, I just threw myself at it and thoroughly enjoyed it, and training twice a day, 6 days a week. And just got there. I enjoyed the Ironman. Did 4 or 5 of those and a bunch of halves. And
so you did like 4 or 5 full Ironmans? Yeah, nice.
And then decided to go longer because I was never going to be competitive in my age group at Ironman.
So you needed to go longer.
I needed to go longer to get competitive, and so I started doing all sorts of leery, long distance stuff. We did the race across America a couple of times.
Oh wow!
The bike race, and did Ultraman, as it was called. The Ultra 520k Canada, I think they'd renamed it by the time I did it, but went to Penticton and did the Ultraman out of there.
Wow!
Which was an amazing event, and I did well and I enjoyed it, and just a whole bunch of stuff, long runs, all that sort of stuff. So when I left corporate, moved back down to Jervis Bay with the properties and so on, I guess that curbed the amount of time I was willing to put into the endurance stuff. So I just stayed really fit, but I discovered how to CrossFit, and hey, how are you guys?
Awesome.
Discovered the CrossFit scene, and that's where the Bay Games came from. Decided that whilst I enjoyed CrossFit, I'm definitely in the majority demographic where I'm not particularly mobile, not particularly talented when it comes to gymnastics or advanced
Olympic
barbell movements. All of that. I mean, it's really great. And I love watching it done well. But I'd rather go and get a really good sweat on. And so that's where the Bay Games came from, really. So it was designed to be a much more accessible version of something, along the lines of the CrossFit Games.
So when was the first Bay Games?
2017, same year as HYROX.
There's all these.
They've gone on different trajectories, haven't they?
And was this an event that you did with Mo, or? No, this was your standalone?
No, but Mo, I have to say, was always very supportive.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a great guy. And so I've known him for years, and he was just very supportive, and he actually he loved the way we ran it. Loved the way we branded it and ran it, and the ethos of it and the spirit of it. And he was always very generous and supportive. A lot of the infrastructure, the crowd control barriers, all that stuff. He just let us use them.
Nice.
Very, very generous.
No, that was good. And so, Bay Games 2017, how many competitors in the first year?
The first year we had, a couple hundred.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was tiny, 200.
And it was, at that stage, CrossFit was pretty underway then, wasn't it?
Very much so. Yeah.
And could have you had more people at that first one, or did you cap it small?
No, we could have had more people. We did. I mean, honestly, we didn't really have a great game plan behind it. We'd just been to what's now the Down Under CrossFit Championships.
In Wollongong.
Just watched watched this thing unfold and watched the energy of the crowd.
Yeah.
You could just see it lifting the athletes.
Yeah.
And it was actually my wife who said, oh, we could do one of these in Jervis Bay for the everyday athletes. It was like, hang on a minute, that sounds like an idea. And we could call it the Bay Games.
And my wife already likes it. Like
That's right, yeah.
There's the biggest challenge. I don't know how many ideas I've had, and Emma's poo-pooed it, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and that's where it came from. So
awesome.
yeah, we grew that. I think about 1,400 people. Because I guess the format was similar to the game. It's not like HYROX where you're coming in for your hour, your 90 minutes, your 2 hours.
Yeah.
The Bay Games, it's X number of events over 2 days or over 1 day.
Yeah. And it was an individual and teams event?
Yeah, we had indies, doubles, and teams of 4.
Yeah, nice. Hey, mate, away. Excellent. And so you're still working corporate while you start Bay Games?
No, I'd stepped out by then.
Oh, okay.
So when I moved...
And did you still have the dive shop?
No, I'd sold that.
Gone
I sold the dive shop, got sucked back into corporate, went to Singapore.
Yeah, yes.
Did that for 2 stints,
Yeah.
2 different wives, as you do. And came back, did the property thing, and then started the Bay Games.
Yeah, right.
So that was me really. I was doing a bit of performance coaching.
So you didn't have a gym or a box or?
No.
And it was just a once a year event?
Yep. Well, it was. We started running a second one called the Bay Games Metro.
Okay.
So we ran that up in Sydney, which was good fun. But then
What's that lighthouse? Is that Jervis Bay?
Yeah. So that's the entrance to Jervis Bay right there. So that's the north. That's North Head, if you like. It's actually Point Perpendicular, is what it's called.
Yeah, right.
Point Perp. So yeah, got the old and the new lighthouse on top of it. This is Bowen Island, just the corner of.
Yeah.
And for sure, you can basically head that when you end up in Sydney.
Yeah, right.
Go past Wollongong in Sydney. Yeah, beautiful. It's I don't take for granted that I call this place home.
It's the same.
After all this time, I don't take that for granted.
And and it really, I've talked about this quite a bit with friends, and like everyone tends to migrate north, right? So we're Central Coast, we get smashed. Anywhere that's coastal, that's an hour from the city, you get hammered. But I always used to, look at that, I love it's so, what would you call it? Like, it's visually different to the Central Coast, right?
Yeah.
We don't have these cutaway cliffs but yeah, so we get...
We're about to be in a whale season, right?
Right.
They'll be heading back south, but probably a bit earlier.
And this would be a good spot to see them come through.
Great spot, yeah. Anywhere here, you just see them all coming down, beautiful.
Yeah.
Breaching and doing their thing. You probably get a good view here. So from a diving perspective, having had a dive shop here, and there's all these sort of, they're not really caves, but because they're open to the,
right,
it's not cave diving per se, but you can certainly, you get that sensation underneath. Amazing, beautiful.
And you get your adrenaline pumping for sure.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, this is stunning.
Not too shabby.
Geez, that rucksack looks good on you, Matty.
Actually, it's really comfortable.
Yeah, they're good.
I say it quite genuinely.
I'll just clip that for an ad. It's really comfortable.
They are.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're designed for, man. I just, like I said, I wore a weight vest and to try to make my walks a little bit more meaningful, but it just wasn't comfortable, and so I probably could have been in the market a year ago with a subpar version of that. A couple of my original prototypes were good, but I'm like, I think there's a underestimated thing in entrepreneurialism where you build something great. And I thought with this, because it's got the chance to be on so many people's backs, that I just wanted to have like that perfect product and be a product first kind of company. So
it's interesting. It's a fine line, isn't it, between putting out a product that you're proud of and procrastinating.
Yeah, and and where it gets tricky is that you want first mover advantage. So I'm talking about rucking, and there's no ruck companies in Australia, and so the businessman in me was like, you need to launch as soon as you can, because someone else is going to come out.
Be first.
Be early. But I'm like, I was just getting these prototypes and they just weren't, they were close, but not. Every time I got one, I was like, oh, and it's not until you use it that you would come up with, oh, I just want to adjust this or add this or, you know, change the way, like, so even something as simple as that belt hook there,
Yeah.
like we've got this hook here, but I'm like, if you're adjusting up heaps, there was a bit of an overhang and it would flap out, and I'm like, it's just those little things, those little details that would annoy the piss out of me. And so yeah, so that was the last change I made. I'm like, on the waist belt we need to have a secondary loop, so if someone's adjusted to the limit, they've got somewhere else to tack, because
as a former
and it'd
cave
hit your
diver,
hand.
I appreciate that you need to tuck everything up and have it all tidy.
Oh
so
yeah, for sure.
speaks of the OCD in you.
And I see, funny, we worked with we still work with an agency that we wanted to get some UGC, and so we worked with some of their influencers to get the vest to them. Every single video I see, the straps hanging out. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I think Apple's the perfect example of you don't need to be first.
Nah.
You just need to get it right.
Yeah, yeah. And we were like, GoRuck have been around for, man, GoRuck used to just do events. And I remember talking about, they came to Sydney one year when we had Search for Herd and we couldn't make the timing work. But we spoke to GoRuck like in probably 2011, 2012 about doing a GoRuck event in Search for Hurt. So it's come around full circle. Now I'm going to be GoRuck's biggest competitor. But like I said, I don't want to compete. You know, I was skeptical to put it on the Wildlife because they are such a CrossFitty, but they were kind of like, oh, we want an Aussie company. You know, GoRuck is shit to deal with.
I'm pleased to hear that.
Yeah. So Bay Games, so you do the first one. Obviously, it was successful enough that you considered doing more.
Well, there was an appetite, there was an audience there, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. So that was my first foray into event life, basically.
Yeah, nice.
And
it's a slippery slope.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I, for sure, was handling very much the logistics side. I mean, sure, on the weekend, but it was everything that it takes to bring all of that together. Yeah. That's the part that really appealed to me.
Yeah, and it's a massive dopamine hit for those addictive personalities.
Yeah, and then you see the impact, of course, it has.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a backstory, everyone's got something going on, and that sense of triumph and achievement, whether they're on the podium or not, doesn't matter. Yeah,
and where did you run it? Where was the location?
Right in the heart of Huskisson, White Sands Park. So we used to use, and certainly Josh and the team still do, who I sold it to, but White Sands Park is the home of Jervis Bay.
Yep.
So just ran from the pub, and that gives you perfect access down to a beach which is unfortunately called Sharknet Beach.
Oh.
There's no net and there's no sharks, but nonetheless, that's what it's called. But it's beautiful. I'll show you on the way back.
Yeah.
It's just this beautiful beach that's protected. It's a perfect sandy entrance and exit.
Yep.
Everything about it is perfect.
Yep.
And it connects to where the arena is.
Yeah,
so
nice.
You can in terms of programming opportunities.
It just gave you that. And
amazing.
Isn't it awesome, like, to be able to factor in, well, it's probably maybe not going to be so much after this year's CrossFit Games, but to be able to program in water events with your fitness events.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you're talking about holistic functional fitness.
Yeah.
Well, swimming plays a part in that.
Yeah,
But we used to have stand-up paddle boards. We had the surf club paddle boards. Had all sorts. Yeah. I mean, Josh last year introduced kayaks for the first time.
Awesome.
So it's not just swimming, right? You can do other things with the water. And for sure, the whole CrossFit Games topic.
Yeah.
I know that. Josh. We spoke during that week because he was getting emails and messages coming in, hey, I guess you're going to cancel the water events now, and it's like, well, no.
Yeah,
that's not the point. The point is having a robust safety plan in place and the right team in place. And I'm not saying they didn't CrossFit, but I know that we always use surf rescue. So we have professional surf rescuers there with all the equipment, all the
probably on jet
all the plans in place. Yeah, jet skis, paddleboards, you name it. So we would always submit to surf rescue. We'd submit, how many, what's our max capacity? So what's the total number of people at any one time who will be in the water? What's the event? what's the course? So all of that would be submitted to Surf Rescue, and they would then come back and go, okay, well then
Based
we
on
need
that, yeah.
3 ribs, 2 jet skis,
Yeah.
5 paddle boards.
Yeah.
And of course there's radio comms, they'd have someone on land.
Yeah.
And that was actually perfect for where we ran it. You can have an elevated position,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you can look down and see everything. So through COVID we ran it online.
Yeah.
And so it was a time where people were able to go back to their gyms, but we couldn't have that many people coming together in Jeff space. So what we did was try and provide as closer as we could to the real event. So we basically live streamed from where event 1 would have been.
Yeah.
And had slightly different programming for sure.
Yeah.
But we basically spent the whole day doing that. So we would move to where, down on the beach for event 1, or at the wharf actually.
Yeah.
And then the beach for event 2, do the briefing, run it.
And then
the
people could do it
was
in
live.
the
Yeah,
gyms.
the leaderboard was live. The leaderboard, the results.
Awesome.
Then we go to the arena, and so we had our whole team was moving around. We had a lot of fun actually.
Yeah.
It was good fun doing that, and I think people generally just appreciated it.
Yeah, because
It's as close as we could get them to competing in the Bay Games that year.
Yeah.
And so for sure, we just tried to remain relevant and be of service ultimately to the audience.
Yeah. And was it because of your owning an event company and doing something in that functional fitness space that you came across HYROX?
Well, you've mentioned his name already, Emo.
Yeah.
So I got a phone call from Emo.
Yeah.
And Emo said, mate, I think I found the next big thing, and I'm going to go for it, but I need you to be a part of it. Because it's what you do. And he was talking about HYROX. I hadn't heard of it. And so we were actually initially trying to get the license for HYROX in Australia.
Same with me. That's how I met you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so we spoke to Christian and Douglas and so on. And for about 6 months we went down that road, and I guess they were doing their due diligence. And in the end, it came to the point where they said, listen, if we were going to use a license model in Australia, for sure it would be you guys.
Yep.
The perfect constellation. However,
we're not.
It's such an important market, we're going to come direct.
Yep.
And so thank you, but if people want to race, let us know.
Yeah, right.
And then the next day I got a phone call from Christian that just said, hey, as you know, we're coming direct and we want you to lead the charge.
Yeah, right. And Emma was all right with that? I suppose.
I mean, he was.
You were in a better position to do it anyway, right?
He was very kind. He said perfect for the perfect time, perfect person, perfect opportunity. He said obviously quite jealous, but in a nice way.
Yeah.
He said for sure. There were 2 other guys as well. All 3 of them just said, you've got to do this like it's perfect.
Yeah. Who was it? Lance Armstrong. So he just did Dallas. Or the Texas event?
He was in New York. He may have done another one since, but
right.
He was certainly in New York, and cited it as that was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to be doing lots more of these.
Yeah.
They're real wounderies. Same age group as me, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, but you might be doing it clean. He might not be.
Harsh.
There's no drug testing in HYROX yet.
There is. No. It's
in the World Champs. Yeah.
No, actually, no. So the latest rule book, it's been there all along, but it's just been reinforced that, following the wider guidelines at least, for sure, anyone can be tested. But naturally.
But they haven't allocated an ASADA.
It's the Elite 15 that ultimately is subject to that. And so we did that for the first time in Nice this year at the World Championships.
Oh, okay. Did the P test for the top 15?
For
or randoms?
5 of.
Yeah, right.
5 of. So the first 3 and then 2
Hopefully
randoms.
One of them was Hunter.
Well, he was certainly, he would have been, because I think he came in 3rd or something. So
yeah.
He wouldn't have been singled out because he's Hunter, but for sure,
no.
based on his results, he would have been one of them.
Yeah,
but that was more of a, let's just try the process, let's just see how it works.
And I think it's like, at the point, you guys are getting to the pointy end of competitive events and like whether it becomes its own sport or, a lot more prize money gets thrown at it because the sponsor pool and like I'm assuming there's going to be some broadcast deals done that'll bring some more money in. Like,
sure, I assume that's the part. That's the way it's going. And certainly we've got to make sure that 99.99% recurring of our community.
Yes.
It's just the use and need.
Yeah.
And so when we look at other sports like CrossFit, I mean, they've done an amazing job. It's an amazing business. Sure, they've had some speed bumps in recent times, but it's still an amazing business.
Yeah, for sure.
However, you can see how the sport's evolved to become much more technical, much more competitive, and so on and so on. Whereas HYROX is a standard format. And yes, there are more and more people now, really amazing athletes, turning their attention to it. And you see the times dropping, the world records, the times dropping incredibly. But in the end, 99% of the community, it's just the use and need.
Yeah.
It's the community. It's that sense of achievement. It's that something to focus on.
And you know where I think it's like great, and like I obviously I was a fan when I saw it on telly so much so I wanted to get the license for Australia. But going to Melbourne this year to film for Search, I haven't been to I film a lot of events, and it's the only one that I've had that feeling that I actually want to compete in.
Yeah, sure.
I go to Xterras and I go to turf games and I go to like backyard ultras, and we do all of these cool events that we go and do. I'm not at a backyard ultra going, oh man, I want to do this next year. I wouldn't mind giving it a crack, but there was something about being at HYROX, looking at the range of athletes from Peter Day and James Kelly and those guys, right through to like a dude that was twice the size of me in a onesie, running around probably doing 2.5 hours. But it was, when it was watching the teams and
the relays.
The relays. So I was looking at it going, for my first HYROX, that would be exactly what I'd do, because I'd just grab one of my mates, we do some training for it, but...
Oh, so doubles or teams?
Oh, doubles, doubles, yeah. Okay. So, and then you're splitting the workload, right, and leaning into...
You've not done it yet?
No.
I thought we got you to do one.
No. I've got a massive shoulder impingement issue that I'm dealing with at the minute. So
that'll be fixed by December, right?
I'm hoping so, man. But
What are you doing on the 14th of December?
Yeah, I should do Melbourne, shouldn't I?
Yeah, you really should.
I might. Yeah. All right, that's a goal. You've heard it here first.
Gauntlets just thrown on the floor in front of you.
Hey Emma, I'm training for HYROX.
Well, you lead from the front. Yeah, you do.
Many years ago before that would happen, but yeah, man. I got that. I saw the doubles, and I'm like, that's perfect, because you're experiencing the HYROX. You're still physically exerting yourself. You're doing the competition thing, but because you can kind of split the workload up based on strengths and weaknesses, I'm like, that is just so good.
It's undoubtedly the sweet spot.
Yeah.
We see that both in registrations, but for us personally, it's the sweet spot. Because you get to do it with a mate, you get to train with a mate, you get to share the love, the sweat, the tears, the laughter on race day with a mate. It's just, without question,
I actually saw
the way to go.
A clip that a female put up, and she would have been mid-20s with a fit boyfriend, and she was like, oh, this is how you do HYROX doubles. And she didn't do anything except for run. So he did every single...
Not really.
No, I know. But she was like, oh, this is the perfect way to do HYROX. So she did her 8Ks in eight 1K sessions, but every single element that they went into, every station they went into, he was grounding it out. And I'm like, and she's just standing there watching him.
It's funny, we had a few people hooking in leading up to Perth on the gram. Sort of saying, oh, it's exactly that scenario going, it's not right, you should be measuring to make sure it's an equal share of the work. And why?
Shut up, Karen.
That's how people, exactly. If people want to do it that way, do it that way. I mean, knock yourself out. But equally, actually, we actually then, just for fun, we kind of went, well, how would you? Actually, because logistically, and it's really not feasible.
No.
It's not feasible.
No.
To try and work out who's done what and are they sharing it and and come on, let's have some fun.
But
that's how people want to.
Yeah, but you play soccer, right? You're not limited. Your striker's not limited to 10 touches a game, right?
Exactly.
Like you play to your strengths.
Yep.
You try to minimise your weaknesses, and that's perfect.
And maybe she was dragging her fit boyfriend along on the run because she's a better runner.
Yeah, oh for sure. Yeah. Maybe she had a little band banded him up. But yeah, I love that. The other thing I love about it too, because it is standardized, like it's an awesome test of fitness, right? In like not for even from a competitive standpoint, but if I was going to the gym, slogging it out 2 or 3 times a week, every time HYROX come to town, I can compare my time versus last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like from almost like a beep test or that foundational fitness test, like there's no better, I think like that is the standalone element for me that I love, is that I can test myself at any HYROX anywhere and just see how my time's improved, and then you know how much your fitness has improved as a result.
And you're right, I mean, you can do that with your overall time, but then you've got all your data points.
Yes.
So we get your split on your runs, we get your splits for every workstation, so then you can go, well, I reckon I can go 30 seconds quicker on the sled push, and you can dial in your
and it gives you a strategy to work, or you know where your weaknesses are, right? Like if the sled pull and push is like by far your worst part, you've now got 12 months, if you're not traveling to go and do one, to work on that element, and then you get to put it into practice next time it comes to town.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
One thing that's blown me away is how many people are traveling.
Oh,
there's so many people.
I couldn't believe how many, like of my community, like the Search for Her community, went to WA. Like that's a commitment, right? Like
we had one gym,
yeah,
one of the gyms, BFT studio in New Zealand, brought 64 of their members from New Zealand to Melbourne.
Holy dude.
64 members.
They could nearly charter a plane.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Abbas.
And so that BFT deal is ending very soon, isn't it?
Yeah, that expires. So we're recording, where are we? We're towards the end of September.
Yeah.
24, and yeah, so that partnership agreement expires at the end of this month.
Yep. And is it are you signing a new partner, or?
Not an exclusive partner. So we recently signed a global partnership with F45.
Yep.
But it's not exclusive.
Nah.
And we won't have any more exclusive gym partners. And that's no reflection on BFT, I have to say. It's just, it doesn't really make any sense. We've got so many of the gym brands and independently owned boutiques who want to be involved.
Yeah.
And an exclusive partnership, of course, excludes them by design, or by default, not by design.
Yeah.
So certainly 1st of October onwards, we've got the team ready to go, and we'll be onboarding lots and lots of gyms, and certainly there are other gym brands who we're in discussion with already who are keen to be involved at some level.
So you were saying now that you're, being able to work with a whole lot of different gym brands and individual gyms and boxes. Is the PFT still something that you want to see like a big uptake on across?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And is that the strategy now, is like, let's try to have as many fitness centres doing PFTs?
So we have more than just the PFT these days. So the PFT, the physical fitness test, that's one great activation we've got, and it's the ultimate benchmark in a way. I've
done it, yeah. I can vouch. Well, we put it as part of our qualies for this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we have the HYROX Circuit Challenge as well, which is a much more team-centric form of activation that a gym can participate in. And there are others coming. I know a studio in one of the brands in Sydney has started running mini Roxes.
Oh, nice.
And I'm not actually sure what the constellation is yet, but they said there's massive uptake by their members.
Yeah, right.
They just love it. And I guess it's back to that accessibility piece, isn't it? I mean, the design of HYROX, it's based on the tenets of human movement: run, push, pull, jump, throw. And as soon as I say that to people, they go, "Oh, what's HYROX?" Well, they normally say, "What's HYDROX?" They go, "No, it's a silent D." And then you say it's run, push, pull, jump, throw, and people go, "Ah, right, so I could do it." Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it. It's designed, as you said.
Yeah.
In Melbourne, you saw.
It's like a chipper.
All ages, all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
We had a guy, Harun. Shout out to Harun from Singapore. He was in Perth with us. He's got cerebral palsy, and he took 3 hours and 2 minutes to complete his race.
Wow.
In Perth, and he literally crawled up the finisher stage, literally. And I kind of said to him halfway up the stage, "You're right." He said, "Yeah. Leave it with me.
I'll get there."
but absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Which I guess from people who see the top 15, and that's a lot of the media coverage, you know, everyone kind of covers that, whether it's Buttery Bros or, you know, any of the media that now is jumping on HYROX. Like, you don't really get to see that it is, like, I could go and do it tomorrow. I'm definitely, you know, not going to be breaking any records, but you just do it.
You break your record.
I break my own PB, yeah, because I haven't done it before, but it is definitely something that everybody can jump in and do. You know, some will do it a lot more comfortably than others.
You know, it was interesting last year when we launched, and we got quite a lot of feedback. People go, oh, what's HYROX? And they go and look it up and go, and they would perceive that, oh, it's all these really ripped, fit, super strong athletes doing it. And it was really interesting because we get that feedback, go, oh, no, it's not for me. Yeah, it's for these ripped weapons. And you go, it's really not. But that's what's on your Instagram feed.
Yeah.
And I guarantee it was very, very carefully managed from a global perspective to be 50-50.
Yep.
50% you and me.
Yep.
50% the weapons. And what's interesting is it seems that there's a psychology in there somewhere, because people were seeing the fit ripped dudes and girls but weren't really noticing the grey men and women using these.
I'm one of those.
And so for that reason, we have tipped the ratio heavily towards the everyday, because that's who it's for in the end.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
And they're the ones that are going to get the biggest benefit out of it long term.
Yeah.
Like James Kelly, he might have another 30 seconds or a minute he can shave off his time in the next 5 years.
Oh, I think he'd argue that there's more to come off than that.
Man, I saw, actually, talking about that and the whole fit media, that Vicky spent the day with him before Brisbane.
Yeah.
And I watched that clip, and it was definitely, I felt a vibe that maybe James thought he was going to break the world record at that event. Just a few things that him and his missus were saying. I was like, there seems to be a little bit of confidence that a record might be broken at Brizzy. But then, and you could tell when he was kind of on pace, but then fell off it towards the end. The disappointment, and I just kind of went, yeah, I reckon he thought he was going to break a record that night.
If he was doing that, then he probably realised at one point he wasn't on for it.
No.
And probably backed off.
Yeah, it was his coach was, because I was watching a feed from his missus, was doing like a live while he was running. Yeah. And people were asking his coach about the split times, but they weren't asking, they were asking about the split times versus a world record. Yeah. So I think he was,
He's got it in him.
Yeah, it was.
I'm confident he's got it in him. What's
before the wall balls?
The
lunge?
lunges, yeah.
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Which is a cruel trick, isn't it?
Oh yeah, man. I think it might have been during that set that they kind of realised that he wasn't going to hit it.
Yeah, because he'd know very well what his wall ball times will be. I mean, he just punches an 8. So
yeah.
I don't say it because it's easy, but he just does. He's trained to just punch them 8 unbroken.
Yeah. Yeah, he's. I've seen a bit of James even prior to HYROX coming out. Well, like I think he was doing Spartan races, the obstacle course stuff, and a little bit of all that gear beforehand.
Yeah, he's a great athlete.
Yeah.
And obviously he's devoted himself to HYROX at the moment.
Yep.
And I really genuinely believe he's got it in him to stand on top of the podium, no question.
So has he got the current world record?
No, Hunter has.
Hunter's still got it, yeah,
but
right.
James is second.
Oh, okay. So what's the record time?
Oh, he's 50.
Is it 53s?
I'm gonna hash this now. It's down there. Yeah, 53. I can't remember now.
Is it? Yeah, I wasn't.
My age, but it's 53. Yeah, 53 and change.
Yep. Which is amazing, right?
Absolutely. But James went from sort of consistently 58s, and he dropped in a 54. Like he took a chunk of time out.
I wonder where he picked that up. That'd be an interesting question.
Well, I know that he attributes it to a switch in coach.
Okay.
He changed the way he was training, and there's probably a mindset piece in there as well in terms of strategy.
Yep.
And there's no question. I mean, there has to be some impact. The course itself has an impact. Even though
there can be temperature as well. Like
always the same distance. They really are. Plus or minus 10 metres.
Yeah.
They just are. Because we measure them, we do resistance testing on the carpets with the sleds, we do at every race, we do all of those things. So the distances are the same, but If you've got smooth corners like a running track, well, they're faster, aren't they?
Yeah,
they just are.
Yeah.
We had some fun after Perth as a crew, and we did our own. I'm not even going to say we did a HYROX. We didn't do a HYROX.
No.
Because I've never seen cartwheeling, handstand walking, or sandbag conga lines in a HYROX race. That's what it quickly descended into. But but nonetheless, we were doing some of the runs, and that camel's hump that I talked about.
Yeah.
It just slows you down.
Yeah.
It just does.
And there was a little kink in Sydney too, yeah?
Well, you had, that was like in Plan
like
B,
an
that's like a perfume bottle. So it had, yeah, exactly. It's got this round piece at the top, and it came down to a neck before going into a rectangle.
Yeah.
So for sure, that has to have an impact on times. That said, Joanna Wettrick at Perth, she put in 1 hour and 46 seconds, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, right.
She's only 22.
Wow.
So that's her 4th race.
Yeah.
She's won 3 of them, and the first one in Melbourne, she forgot to put the timing chip on her ankle.
I saw someone else's feed that Monique McCrenna did the same thing, and she'd been training like she's about 6'4", big athlete, but she'd been training for HYROX. It was all about HYROX. And then she gets down there and forgets to put a timing chip on. And she was devastated.
Oh, you would be, wouldn't you?
And she didn't realise till halfway through the race where someone went, "Where's your time?" Like one of the stewards was kind of like, "Has your timing chip fallen off?" And then she just went, "Oh shit, I never put it on."
Oh, that's brutal, isn't it?
I know, right? So
brutal. But no, I mean, so Joanna proved that in Perth, even with that camel's hump, it was a legit course. I mean, they all are, but she proved that, okay, it's possible to smash it. So
and I think
she's a rising star for us in Australia. She's obviously we've got James already, and now to have the women represented by Joanna is so exciting.
Yeah. And they haven't announced where World Champs is this year?
No.
Is it this year or next year? Next year.
It'll be next year. It's always June every year. That marks the end of the traditional HYROX season, which we don't really have.
The European.
Yeah, exactly. We don't really have in Australia. No. It's June every year.
I do notice that, I saw a lot in the feeds of people that went over to Worlds in Nice this year, that the heat played a real big part. Like they weren't expecting it to be so humid and so hot, and I think that threw a lot of race plans out the window. Yeah, particularly for our guys that are leaving like a miserable 3-degree day in Melbourne or Sydney and then heading over to that.
So we're definitely measuring environmental factors now. Certainly temperature, humidity, at some races maybe air quality. So we're certainly starting to make that part of the standard road kit that comes into play. And so I mean, for example, in Perth, I can tell you now, we got there at 4:30 in the morning on race day and immediately checked the temperature with our own equipment, and it was 23.1, so bang, straight to the venue. Can you drop it to 21, please? And, so by the time everyone arrived, it was where it should be. And then we monitored it, sat between, it was about 22.
That's the other benefit of having internal venues too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So why were people complaining about the heat in Nice? Was that they didn't have that opportunity?
It's an old facility, the one in Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It looks
really
stunning.
amazing roof on. Everything about it was wonderful.
Yeah.
But it was old, and therefore the climate control systems were also old.
Okay.
So at one point we just had to crack the doors front and back and ventilate that way as well.
Right. But
they were right. It was hot and humid.
Yeah.
Isn't the ideal combination.
No, I remember seeing Hunter really struggle in that event. I'm guessing that was probably a bit heat, even though he would have been coming from summer in the US, but
it was interesting. I don't follow a huge amount of Hunter, but I certainly was interested because he'd obviously talked it up, as he does, and good on him.
Yeah, I can tell you a good story about him.
Talked it up for Worlds, and he'd actually shed quite a lot of weight. So by his standards, he deliberately leaned off.
Yeah, right.
And he certainly attributed that to being...
So maybe it was like a cut for MMA or something. And you see some MMA fighters after a cut, like they'll either have a good cut or a bad cut, and it affects their performance huge. Well,
he certainly said that was his issue. Yeah. So, and when he went straight back to full-on strength training and putting some size back on, because apparently biceps win races. That's certainly what he says.
Yeah. No. Well, so here's an interesting story about us and Hunter. We went to, so Hunter was big in the Spartan world, and we went to the Spartan World Champs in Vermont to do a documentary. We sent an Aussie team over there, and it would have been 2014 or 2015. And leading in, Joe DeSena, who owns Spartan Race, was talking about this Hunter McIntyre. You know, because at the time, Hobie Call was like the best obstacle racer going around, and he was in one of our first episodes in the show. We went and trained, Matt went and trained with him in the US. And then he's talking about this, there's a new sheriff in town, and I don't know if that's how he got his nickname. But like Joe just didn't shut up about Hunter, and Hunter didn't shut up about himself. And we kept because Matt was super, super focused on winning this world champs. Like, I've never seen anyone focus so much on an event, but you know, that's what elite athletes do. And we didn't say anything, and we're just like, yeah, and listening to Hunter, carry on. And we get to the event, and we had Matt, we had a few good seasoned guys, but we had a guy called Ryan Roberts even, that he was a tree lopper and just a fit human, but never really, he trained in the gym a little bit, but he'd done maybe 1 or 2 Spartan races. And Matt said, this kid is awesome. He's just never really been trained and so I think he did a bit of training with Matt leading in, and he was keen to come over. So we said, yeah, all right, bring him over. But so the race happens, Hobie won it, Matt comes second. Even Ryan Roberts, I think, came 5th or 6th, and Hunter was like 9th.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And yeah, Joe, I've still got footage of when Matt crossed the finish line, and Joe was like, what? And you can see that he's looking for Hunter, and Hunter was minutes behind.
I appreciate his style. That's his style. He owns it.
Yeah.
He talks it up.
And he doesn't care, man.
He doesn't care.
No.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
And he knows exactly what he's doing. And but I appreciate that it drives so many others. It's driven the sport. It's driven the times.
Yeah. And everyone wants to beat him because he's the loud, he's the squeaky wheel, gets the grease sort of thing. And I even found myself watching the world champs and then seeing guys put time into Hunter in some of the stations, and I'm like you always feel good when you see the tall poppies start to fall, it's that. Yeah, so which is not
smart. I mean, it's a PR play, isn't it? It does get him exposure in the end.
Yeah.
And that's good for his sponsors, that's good for his brand.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt HYROX either.
Yeah. Would you ever consider having him come out for one of the events here?
Oh, we talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about him coming out last year.
But then you realised all your marketing budget was going to get tied up in one guy.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really in the business of flying people around the world.
No.
It's not what we do.
No.
And so, yeah, and he understood that.
Yeah.
He and his manager, they were cool, super cool. He was trying to make it very easy for us, in fairness.
Yeah.
He was very, very, just wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, right.
But in the end, yeah, we didn't have budget
up
for flying people around.
No. And we touched on Lance Armstrong jumping in and posting a really, really good time for his age group.
In the open division.
In the open?
Yeah. So for sure he'll go pro. I mean,
yeah,
of course he will.
Yeah,
But it was his first one, right?
Yeah,
He was just testing the water.
Yeah,
and enjoyed it and realised,
And we realised that he's a fit individual.
No I've been a long time fan of Lance, I have to say.
Yeah, same, man. And I don't know. I'm interested to see what's the games that they've got that they're allowing drugs.
I can't remember the name, but
what's it called?
Well, everyone's been saying it forever, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they should just let everyone go for it and do it.
Because they're doing it, and I think the proof will be enhanced games. I think the proof's going to be when you see the enhanced games when they open, have no drug policy. I think the times are going to be pretty similar to what traditionally they've been in a clean.
I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's a bit like car crash television, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're going to have to watch it.
Oh, for sure.
But equally, there's a part of me that just cringes because you think about the long-term health benefits.
Oh, yeah,
for the individuals, but they're doing it knowingly.
I think that most of the sports have got drugs in it. That's my skeptical view, is that because if you're a pharmacist that can cook up stuff that I think the guys that are the best pharmacists aren't working for the ASADAs. They're working for the sport, they're making money working for the associations, right? So they're always going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 steps ahead.
Probably
And-
on the underground drug scene, frankly. There's far more money in that. But
Oh, for sure. And I just think that, like, cycling was a perfect example. The agencies, even as public as them trying to track down Lance was, like, they were just never up to speed as much as what the guys that were concocting the
Michelle
stuff for him.
Ferrari.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and so I just think that by just saying, hey, we're not going to test, I don't think they should be encouraging people to fucking juice up to their eyeballs, but
well, that's what's going to happen.
yeah, I know, especially in some sports, but
See people just exploding.
yeah, yeah, and then yeah, and we'll see how it plays out. But I think in the traditional sports where a lot of track and field, and I think that the times aren't going to be substantially better than what they've been doing.
But I
throughout
guess they
history.
don't need to be substantially better to win, do they?
No,
I mean, we're
no.
talking about really
like milliseconds.
it's tiny games, but at the pointy end of any of these stories, that matters, right?
Yeah, but I would have like you would think if the Olympics was clean, and then you've got this enhanced game.
It is, no?
Well,
Depends which countries we're talking about.
yeah. But I think if then you have an enhanced games where you don't have any limitations on the performance enhancing stuff they can take, you've got to think that 100 metre is going to be at least half a second quicker than what it is clean.
It also depends on the calibre of athlete, though, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming most, if not all, genuine professional career athletes are not going to do that.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's still always going to be hard to measure.
You're still getting the B grade, the ones that don't make the cut for the Olympic
true test
team.
would be taking your gold medalists,
Yes.
juicing them for a year, and then
Get Noah and then juice him up and then say, hey, run 100 metres, juiced up, and see what the difference is. Yeah. But yeah, it's a tough one, but it's an interesting one at the same time.
All right, there's another Rucking Good episode in the books. Hopefully you liked it, and if you did, feel free to share it around and throw us a like and subscribe if you so wish to. If you would like to see or be a guest on Rucking Good, please drop me an email to team@rucksack.com. And until then, we'll catch you on another episode.